I'll call this meeting. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:01. Roll call. Blake.
Here.
Kelsey.
Here.
Robert. Will be here in a few. Merle.
Here.
Glenn.
Here.
Jenny.
Here.
Crystal Chair here. If you'd join me in the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you've had a moment to look at the agenda, I would accept a motion.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Moving to a vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Public comment, sorry, Diane, I didn't look, we have public comment. And board communication,
All right, well, this month marks Board Appreciation Month, and Kim and I will share a few of our appreciative comments, but before we do that, I have Cheryl here representing our principals, our students, and others who have put together a video, so to turn it over to
Sure.
Cheryl.
Yes, so we put together a video. There's a little bit from each school. And then we also I just wanted to highlight the room in here, and we have updated the bulletin boards and updated the orange. So we appreciate you. There's also, maybe. So yes, this is from all of us to all of you. So we have some students to share some messages for you. Thank you.
Passionate, smart, helpful, loving, dedicated. Thank you, school board. Because of you, we get to be seen on our hardest days. Because of you, we get a big school. Because of you, we take pride in our school. Yeah. Because of you, we get to walk through a safe school.
Because of you, we find our voice in discussion. Because of you, we have specialists that create individual plans.
Because of you, students come to our home. We have a great music program.
because of you, we have a great sports program.
Because of you, we have a new gym.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Young, and I'd like to go into public office after high school.
I'm Lila Schaefer, and I want to be a lawyer when I'm older.
Hi, my name is Danica, and I'm using my North Marion High School education to pursue being a pediatric occupational therapist.
Hi, my name is Tim. I'm using my high school education to become a Marine.
Hi, my name is Robin Calkins. I'm using my high school education to pursue law enforcement.
Hi, my name is Riley Wachter, and I'm using my high school education from North Marion to pursue a degree in pediatric oncology nursing.
Hi, I'm Aubrey. I'm going to use my North Marion education to pursue the psychiatric nursing program. I'm going to use my North Marion education to pursue program in nursing.
Hello, my name is Christian Nagata, and I'm going to use my education to pursue business in college and hopefully play soccer. And if not, I will join the Marines and continue my education from there.
Right. That's great.
I ask him to share a few words.
I appreciate just having an opportunity to, I really want to extend my sincere thanks to the leadership, the commitment and the service that each of you are providing to the district in 6 short months. It's very clear how much you care, how much you are committed to our students, to our families, and to our staff. I just truly appreciate this opportunity to be here and working among an entire school community that I really can tell takes a pride to that next level. And I want to say thank you again for the opportunity to come and join this incredible place. He was right.
And I want to thank you very much for, I feel like we are a really strong team, and team means a lot to me. And, you know, teams show up for each other in a lot of different ways. Teammates do that for each other. And, you know, last week we gave this district-wide presentation last Monday, which we're going to give tonight for the public. And nearly every one of you reached out in your own way to check in, not only just to ask, you know, us how to go, but how did it go for our employees and how was the message received? You know, your care goes beyond just, you know, the personal level, but the care demonstrates how much you care about the district and how we serve kids. And so I tell myself every single day how thankful I am to be here. And really it's because of you, because you make it such a wonderful place to work and be a part of a team with you. So thank you so much for all you do for us.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have high school ASB here?
They are here.
Oh, you are back there. Come on up.
Definitely gonna have to come up this time. For sure.
We just went around and we're gonna start our presentation by just telling you guys and updating you guys on the things and on the clubs that have been going around our school and what they've been up to. So first, we'll start off with Skills USA.
Skills USA is resuming after-school practices with both culinary and bakery students. They have 5 culinary students and 3 baking/pastry students preparing for their state competition in April. The state leadership conference will be held at Knife River Training Center, and they're looking forward to a strong showing.
As a member of the prom committee, currently we're having meetings on Thursdays during advisory, and we're doing lots of fundraisers. Our most recent one, we sold chocolate bars for $1 each, and we all sold, there were about, I want to say 10 members, and there were 60 chocolate bars in each box, and we sold all of them. We're currently doing another fundraiser. We're doing a can drive and a Krispy Kreme sale at the Hubbard Park, the water park. And we're hoping to pick a date. We haven't picked one yet, but sometime in April.
Next up is FFA. They have, their student members are currently working on practicing for their speech contests, applying for FFA degrees, and preparing for the National FFA Week, which I'm not sure when that will be, but once we get further into that, I'm pretty sure Ms. Stoddard will let me know. Others are preparing their fair animals and are looking at trying out new fairs this year. Their annual plant sale is on track to be one of the best and biggest ones yet. And they want to say thank you for your continued support of the FFA program.
Next, we're gonna talk about Key Club, which in November /December, Key Club held a Clean Start innovation and collected hygiene items, which will be donated to a local nonprofit organization.
NHS, their second blood drive will be happening on February 19th. Their October drive was very successful. They collected 58 units, and they hope to exceed this number at the next drive. They're still continuing on with their Monday homework help during advisory, and soon they will be helping during Monday math help class too.
FBLA, as members, both of us members as FBLA, we're still doing really good with our Big Brother Big Sister program as we go to the intermediate school every other Monday. 23 FBLA members are signed up to compete at the Regional Skills Conference on January 24th at Canby High School. And most students already completed their online tests, but multiple students will be presenting in person at regionals in events like sales presentations, public speaking, and job interviews.
For yearbook, there's currently 22 students attempting to work on the book on their own time in their own spaces. Their production on the yearbook is going at a much slower pace than usual. They're trying to uphold their goal of covering every student in the book at least 3 or more times. And the theme for this year's book is Together We Are One.
ASB, we changed to weekly meetings to bi-weekly, so officers meet every week and then just general members meet every other week. This December was the first ever Spirit Party Award to the junior class for earning the most spirit points during homecoming week. And we're currently working on winter formal and hopefully some fresh ideas for the spring.
And lastly, Metra held a stuffed animal and candy fundraiser last month. They raised over $800 with $500 being donated to our high school's family outreach program. They set up the giving tree to provide families in our community with gifts for Christmas, and they will hold another fundraiser for Valentine's Day.
Thank you. That was a wealth of information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
We
guys.
appreciate you and don't feel necessary to stay the whole time. I know you're busy.
But there's brownies in the back,
Yeah.
donated to the school board, and there's plenty, so
Yes,
feel free to
yes.
take a brownie.
Make a snack. Thank you. Okay, UNME.
Okay, so first of all, thank you guys for all that you do and happy school board appreciation. And thank you for allowing the union to speak to the board today. My name is Diane McElligott and I am this year's UNME United North Marion Educators Vice President, I almost said principal. As the school year began, our members were met with a great deal of change, including staff reductions and program eliminations, to name a few, which have had a significant impact on our daily work experiences across the district. UNME conducted staff check-in surveys in October and December to better understand the successes and challenges that were being experienced by our members. Given the significant staffing and budget changes for the current school year, these surveys were designed to ensure that staff had the opportunity to share their experiences so that if there were any areas in need of support, that we could identify those and help to address them. Some executive board members met and sifted through the 2 different surveys and identified the main themes that they were seeing throughout both of them. And we wanted to take this opportunity to share those results with the board tonight. So overall, the staff has reported a strong support from their colleagues as a huge positive aspect of their work environment this year. At the same time, members have also identified that larger class sizes, particularly at the younger grade levels, have presented instructional and management challenges along with behavior concerns. Also, with the staff reductions, the shuffling of teaching assignments, and larger class sizes, the limited planning time for individuals and new teams has been one of the top concerns identified by our members on the 2 surveys. Across the survey responses, the common theme is that there's a sense of just being kind of overwhelmed and struggling to manage the demands from the increased workloads and the new roles that are being taken on. So the members have asked that we, UNME, continue to advocate for appropriate planning time, support, and smaller class sizes. And just want to, once again, thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to share those concerns with you tonight from the survey.
So thank you. We know how much time and energy you give to our students, and we just really appreciate all that the teachers and the staff do for us at the district. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your concerns.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, extended overnight field trip. Acknowledging the wrestling team, January 15th through the 17th.
Yeah, good luck.
Jenny. And then consent agenda, I would entertain a motion. Anyone?
Sure, I'll make a motion. We approve consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Merle's up. Discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. District operations.
All right, we'll invite our administration from the middle school, Joe Jensen and Jason Olson up here. And so I won't steal too much of their thunder here, but it's exciting to have a report and focusing on the 3 initiatives. And what I really appreciate about their report that they're gonna launch into is we've talked a little bit about the importance of language acquisition and having student talk in our classrooms. And I know that there's been some board member questions around, what does that actually look like? Well, they're gonna walk you through what some of that actually looks like in our classroom. So with that, I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you. Des, you're our teacher? All right, great. Well, thanks for having us tonight. I've been before you before, but I'd like to introduce Jason Olson, our vice principal this year. We are your North Marion Middle School team for this year, and we've had a great year so far. Back in the fall, the principals came before you and kind of talked about the initiative wheel, and we're still working on that. So the middle schools continue this work primarily as a focus with language acquisition, because that can be integrated easily through the other 2 components as well. All right, and the main vehicle we've worked at with the language acquisition is the PLUS model. So I'll give you a quick overview of it there. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but essentially we've focused our PD on this. Mr. Olson's done a great job of developing and delivering that PD. We've had a lot of great feedback from staff and it being what they're needing, what they're looking for. So this is a school-wide approach, but we are looking at a math problem tonight. A lot of times we think about language acquisition. We might think about our typical language arts classes or maybe a vocabulary heavy class like science, but math is also hitting us there. So here's a pretty typical question from our 8th grade math text.
So for those of you that maybe be math averse, just take an inhale and hold it in and exhale. I'm gonna read you through it. So this is an 8th grade problem. Transversal P intersects parallel line L and M. If the measure of angle BCD is 3 times as much as the measure of angle ABC, what is the measure of angle ABC? And please show or explain your thinking in your response.
So what we're seeing is, students can often do the math, but when we get to that show your thinking or you're explaining your response, sometimes that language, academic language specifically, is missing. So we're working with our teachers to build this up. When we get teachers, whether it's a math problem, students, whether it's a math problem or otherwise, one of their universal strategies right from the beginning are some of our reading strategies that comes from AVID. And so they might underline or highlight keywords, draw a box or define words that they're not familiar with, and then kind of circle other key terms. So this is just one of their first steps that they take, and then we got to kind of feed them that next part. When we get especially to that explain your thinking, there's the stuff that might be in the question itself, but there's some assumed other academic language. And in this case, a common academic acquisition strategy is where do we have scaffolds? Maybe a word wall for words that they've already seen so they can activate their prior knowledge. We know that supplementary is in there somewhere, but that wasn't in the question. So when I'm explaining, I want to know supplementary angles. I might want to know interior angles or adjacent angles. And so we're really working with teachers to have everything in place for students to build this language when they're explaining their thinking. Which leads us to our effective educator domains. And for this area, we're looking at domain 2, which looks at the learning environment. Go ahead, Ms. Kiesel. With some particular focus on that kind of fostering a culture for learning, maintaining purposeful environments, and organizing our spaces for learning. And what that looks like on the day-to-day in your classroom can take shape in many ways like this. So in the physical space, is it set up in a way that's conducive to collaboration? Is it in a circle like this where everyone can see each other and build on each other's thoughts? Are there tools at their disposal? Are there those word walls to pull that prior learning that they had? Are there sentence stems that are available for them? Can they do that? Are there instructional moves? Has the teacher actually designed time in their lesson to stop, think about the protocols for how students are going to talk, have some of these examples. A lot of times students are in groups and teachers might be frustrated, like, well, I put them in groups, but it wasn't productive, or they got off task. Well, do you have roles assigned? Are there ways in which we're going to say, partner A, you're going to give your explanation, partner B, you're going to ask 2 questions for further explanation. Got to have some roles and practice. It's just like anything else. If you throw them together once and then you get frustrated because the result wasn't what you hoped for, that's a pretty common outcome. Do we practice those roles? Do we take time to learn the process so that then we can use it as a learning tool as we continue to go through that? And then for kind of what resources do you have? Our math book, actually, thinking about our example, is really good. In each unit, they take at least one question to break it down. It has native language supports, and really walks that through for teachers who might not be as familiar with that. And then what other tools are available? We started dipping our toe into the use of AI. A lot of teachers use that in a variety of ways, but we're wanting to focus on how do we use that tool to replicate what they may already be doing in a way that scales it up to a factor that makes it more productive in terms of every unit. We have, as we heard from you and me, there's only so much prep time and the job keeps getting bigger and more complicated. So the ability to differentiate, provide more resources, that's one tool in addition to that. So when we look at this next slide, these are a couple of those sample explanations for the problems. So if we remember.
So you remember the question that we asked in the beginning, what is the measure of angle ABC? So what we did was we put that problem into the AI and we asked the AI to come up with some explanations of examples of how students could explain their work using their own basic vocabulary that they have inherent, all the way to an advanced form of sharing their answer. And so on the screen, you'll see 2 different versions of a response that could have been made. Response 1, I checked my answer by multiplying 45 degrees by 3 to find angle BCD. That gave me angle 135 degrees, or that gave me 135 degrees. Then I checked if 45 degrees plus 135 degrees equals 180, and it does. So the answer makes sense. So it generated a very human sounding response that they could read as a script and verbalize out. The example of the advanced was, I noticed that the angles are on the same side and add to 180 degrees. Since angle BCD is 3 times angle ABC, I used X and 3X. When I added, I got 180. Solving 4X equals 180 gave me X equals 45. So angle ABC is 45 degrees. So these tools of efficiency that Joe was referring to really help our students out in the classroom, problem by problem.
So even with all these supports, teachers still seeing some gaps in academic language. So, we're continuing that work, and some of that work is building on our ongoing AVID system that's been in place for a number of years. So some things we're looking at, student organization. If you've been into the commons at the middle school, you might see those black shells. We call that our binder barn. And we've got a very well-developed binder system that keeps kids organized, especially for our 6th grade. They're coming from the elementary where they primarily with one teacher the whole day to bam, now you've got homeroom plus 7 classes. How do you keep organized? How do you manage your work? How do you not lose your homework, etc.? So that school-wide organization is huge. It also lowers some of the cognitive load on where is my stuff. And so it's like, hey, it's all here every Monday in homeroom. They're checking their binders, making sure they have what they need. And what homework has been turned in, what hasn't. Sixth grade team's also been great. You know, homework's on pink paper, green is something for in class. So we're kind of developing that. Two other areas are focused note taking. How do we take that information that we're processing from the short-term memory to long-term memory? And we kind of have a five-point process for that, to really kind of where do we take those notes initially? We have a similar format across the classes. When do we review those? You know, try to get that at least 3 times to move that hopefully into longer term memory, but when not, we talk about word walls and other supports for kids when they need to activate that somewhere else. And we saw those critical reading strategies. Those are just some of our entry level reading strategies. Other things include questioning the text. How do we, you know, do margin notes with post-it notes so we're not writing in our books, things like that. And of course, wrapping up language acquisition. Avid's amazing. It's not 100% original. The Avid language acquisition strategies are supported by and dovetail nicely with our PLUS framework and the other work that we've been having within the district. Additional supports outside the classroom. We finally got our Scholar Center up and running. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we have teachers and IAs available for tutoring and homework help. And so far, we've had about 10 to 15 kids each day of those weeks. And we started just one day before winter break as a trial run. And now we're getting rolling, and a lot of kids are asking, hey, when's Scholar Center? Can I come to Scholar Center? So our staff's been great about getting that going on. And another kind of academic club that we got going on is MESA, which is a science club. This year, I think they're at 17 to 20 members, which is almost triple what they had last year, I believe, with good representation across the board. And our robotics club is doing very well, and it's partnered with our high school as well. And all right, so Mr. Olson, want to take this one?
Well, we can't really take credit, Joe and I, at this because this happened at North Marion Middle School last year, but the ninth graders we sent up to high school have been received very well. We received a note from one of our former colleagues, just stating that this year's freshmen take notes, read out loud to each other, work quietly. It is amazing. I've seen the effort on on taking notes and collaborative learning. One of my freshmen's notes are university worthy. Keep on doing the great work. And so the high school is benefiting from all of the efforts that have been made down middle school.
And we do know that, you know, we get the kids walk across the stage in June. That's not just the high school, that's K-12. You know, middle school's trying to do its part, and we're glad to see that the high school's seen some of the fruits of that labor and building upon that. So that's one of our goals as well, to think about where can we take those strategies that kids are already using for 3 years here and build on those as they transition to high school for a more successful high school transition. Another Avid news, last spring, you may have known or may have even attended, we had a trial Avid showcase where educators from other schools came to visit our school and our classrooms. This fall, I went to Cascade Locks Elementary School to see their showcase and get a sense of how that was running. It was great to see things we're doing are the things other showcase schools are doing as well. And even though it was an elementary, they still had their binders, even though they were a lot smaller. You know, they had reading strategies, note-taking strategies, collaborative focus. So that was great affirmation. This week, in fact, Jason and I are going to head down to Talmadge Middle School to work with their administrators, visit some of their Avid classrooms, and think about their process as we continue to plan for what is tentatively scheduled April 29th for the North Marion Middle School Avid Showcase. And we'll keep you informed on that as time progresses. So outside of Avid, we've got, you know, a lot of other things obviously happening here at North Marion Middle School. Going back a little bit to October, we did make a shift to our conference style. And traditionally, we've done the appointment-based system. And that was great because we could really focus on the message. But what we heard from teachers and some parents was, I don't get to see all the teachers I want to see. And when you have the appointment-based system, our homeroom classes are 20 to 23. That's just about how many slots you can fit into our scheduled timeframes. So we looked at what else was out there. We had a couple teachers that proposed the arena style. We did a lot of work with our staff to see what would this look like. And we communicated with our families and said, hey, let's give it a shot. So with Arena Style, we had all of our teachers in the commons and everyone had stations. Families could come. We asked them to maybe check in with their homeroom teacher, but we also had invitations from teachers who really wanted to make sure they got to communicate. And had a very successful couple of nights there. We had 63% of families show up. Don't have data to see what that compares to previously, but we had many of our teachers said they met with 30 to 20 to 40 families, and even 3 of our teachers said they met with 40 plus. So we think when we take all of those interactions that we actually had a much higher rate of communication between teachers and families. Teachers felt pretty strongly about it. For the most part, our parent feedback was good. One thing we definitely got to look at in the future is some time frame limits. Sometimes some teachers and or families get to talking pretty good, and there might be 2 or 3 families waiting. So, you know, we did some after action report on the system, but we think it's something that we can definitely move forward to meet the needs of that. So, a few other things quickly. Our AVID group, we have a 7th and 8th grade AVID class. They were able to head to OSU, do a campus tour, take in a basketball game, see Benny the Beaver. I don't know who our Beaver fans are here. I'm clearly not one of them, sorry. I'm from Montana, I get to be neutral, so. That was there. Couple of honor roll kids at the end of trimester 1. I selected these because sometimes we do forget how hard students working for that recognition and that sense of pride they feel. They get to feel when they go home and show their certificates to their families. You know, throw it on the refrigerator with the magnet and, you know, enjoy it for a long time to come. And then our robotics actually hosted a robotics competition back in November with the high school and the middle school. So you can kind of see every year there's a course that's designed. They have to get the robots to do a certain thing. And there's a lot of guess and check and learning. The great thing about these competitions is they really get to see different approaches from different styles of learners. So that was very successful right for Thanksgiving. And then last Thursday, we wrapped up, or last week, our winter sports session 1. So we had boys basketball this season and girls wrestling. Girls actually had a final competition over the weekend. We had a number of girls win and competed very well. And then tonight, actually, girls basketball and boys wrestling started. So that'll be our next season. And so we, yeah, like everyone else has said, we thank you for your continued support of our students, families, staff, and communities. And understand many of you are our families. We've got your kids in our schools or have had them. And that's great that you're supporting us in those continued ways. All right. Any questions we want to take? Or?
We'll do round table quickly. Blake, anything? Kelsey?
Good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Earl?
Thank you. Presentation. I'm impressed with the community connection and I like that. And my family isn't necessarily all Beavers, although my wife. But my father made a point to get us to the basketball game.
All right, thanks.
Good memories.
Len?
I would just say thanks for coming and presenting for us. I know it takes time to come and do this, but really appreciate the interaction and keeping kind of a pulse on what's going on in each building.
Jenny?
Yeah, I appreciate, one thing I noticed about your guys' conferences that you listened to the staff and then you followed up and found out what worked and what didn't. So I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, thank you so much for presenting. And it was really good. I appreciate it. And I would echo what Jenny said. It's nice to see action, but then also follow up. So it's good. Good job.
Thank you all. Do we also get brownies on our way out?
Yeah. Yes, please do. Just make sure there's 7 left. I keep saying that, there needs to be 7 when we're done.
All right. You're on.
All right, well, thank you all. So tonight for our financial and enrollment update, I don't have a formal actual presentation, but we have the financial report as well as the enrollment reports linked on the memo. Wanted to take just a moment and highlight a couple areas on the financial report. Similar to the trend we have been seeing, our revenues are coming in above budget for our state school fund. I cannot emphasize enough that a very, very large portion of this is due to increased transportation grant revenues that are going to be uncertain until May of 2027 when they may need to be paid back. Again, this has to do with where we end up ranked statewide. Right now, we are the last one on the cliff of getting the increased funding. If one school ends up with $1 per student more in transportation costs than us, we will lose 10% of that funding, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we really want to keep just that in the forefront. The other piece is, unfortunately, we do have a negative, pulling down that revenue, our ending fund balance for June 30 of 2025, which of course then would translate to the beginning fund balance for this current school year, missed the mark by about $126,000. So that is revenue, if you will, resources that we had counted on to pay expenditures this year that is not there. However, really great in the expenditure sections. We are coming in overall. We are showing trending that expenditures should be able to come in under budget. At this point, I am still predicting that there is a possibility I will be coming to the board asking for a transfer of appropriations. If we go back to how the budget is built, this section here about expenditures by function is what is providing us the authority to spend funds in different types of functions of academics. Right now, we are trending that our expenditures will likely exceed what that allowance was for support services. This goes back again to the kind of term of the year. Right now, our transportation costs are driving that piece there. So what that would mean then is possibly, my prediction is coming to the board and asking to transfer budget authority from the instruction category into the support services category. So not increasing total expenditures, but moving where that authority was granted by our budget committee. In terms of enrollment, we did see a pretty healthy drop, unfortunately, with our January 6th. I used January 6th as the measurement date because that was the date we came back from winter break. Unfortunately, this drop, though, is somewhat typical. It does appear that we hit a little bit of a downward slide, and then we tend to see some things pick back up. So we're going to continue to monitor this. The predictions I had us ending the year at about 1554. So if this can come back up, we may, be in a little bit of a positive trend there as well. So this is, again, just I think a lot of times people are on extended holiday, and we've talked about the 10-day rule and how that impacts our count on any one day. So we'll continue to keep you updated on the enrollment. So with that, I actually would like to turn it over to our auditor. Dan Miley is here. He is with TKW, and we are extremely thankful for the partnership and recent delivery of the 2024-25 school year audit, and really glad you're here tonight to help us walk through this riveting document.
For some of us, it's riveting. Thank you, and thanks to Kim and all the staff that come together that we have to ask questions of and say, please provide this documentation. And we go into all those different schools, depending on the program, especially with single audit. So it takes a lot of people and a lot of effort to get through the audit each year. This year, we are a little bit later than usual. Probably a couple things. The biggest one, the federal government decided that they weren't going to release their compliance supplement for the audit of the federal funds, which is needed for the single audit, till late November. And that provides sort of the blue book or the road to how we need to audit those funds. And without that, it was sort of just guessing at what there is. Then, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, implementation of a couple new standards, but one in particular requiring a little bit more work to get through. And then lastly, just turn over a new fresh set of eyes and just going through. Good thing, but still just something to work through. Who's on there? We did the audit within generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards as required as part of a single audit and the Secretary of State of Oregon. We did interim field work in July, and then we were out here for a couple weeks in September, and then of course continued on our work through there. The single audit was over $2.1 million of federal expenditures that the district had during the year. That was down from about 4.1 million last year. Just go through that, and the ESF, the Education Stabilization Funds, the ESSER funds definitely drew those numbers back and forth over the last probably 4 or 5 years. The two major programs were Title I and the Special Education Cluster this year. And those are all done by formula of how it gets through to make sure that there's a rotation of what gets audited and then a sufficient amount of expenditures that gets audited. The financial statement audit results, good news, unmodified opinion, clean opinion. This is the opinion that you want, that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with US GAAP. And then the audit for Oregon minimum standards, that's required by Oregon state regulation. We had no findings. This would cover budget expenditures, ADM type measurements, that kind of thing. Before moving on to the single audit, a couple things that I just want to note for the district's financial position in total, just in summary, we did have a pension liability that increased about $9 million. Some of that was offset by other pension related balances that are more timing. So it nets out to be about it reduces that impact from about 9 million to about $3 million. And there's a number of reasons for this, but mostly it has to do with PERS and how they calculate it. It is worth noting that the district did, I think back in 21, issue some pension bonds. And so they're paying a significantly lower rate of their PERS contributions than they otherwise would have. I think 20-something percent.
We're saving about 3 to 4% over the current rate.
Yeah. So there's some of that, and there's not, other than number of people in those pension bonds, there's not much to do about that liability. And then the second big impact, as was mentioned, is the implementation of GASB 101 for compensated absences. The biggest thing to do with this was instead of just what was paid, it was paid or used as far as leave balances. And so sick leave got added into this. While it is a large number, I do like to remind boards and other people that reality didn't change. You always had this sort of liability hanging out there, that people were going to use sick leave. That's why you offer it. But now the accounting standards put a number to that. So that number at June 30 was about $2.6 million. The beginning number, so the implementation, what we restated the financial statements for was about 2.1 million. So so it increased your expenses by about $500,000 during the year, having this new balance on the books for you guys. Overall, there was, I was sort of mentioned, federal funding dropped about $2 million. That was sort of offset by state funding increasing by about $1.4 million. So that's there. If you want more information about the compensated absences and how that's all calculated in the restatement, as I'm sure everyone does, that's on page 23. Where we go into. So any questions on any of the financial statement numbers or anything like that before moving on? Next.
Merle? And one question, I noticed several places that you say we don't set out at the outset to give an opinion on the state of affairs at the district. Can you enlarge on that or tell me why you wouldn't provide any assurance of compliance or an opinion from your professional standpoint?
So the requirements are an opinion on the financial statements numbers themselves. One place where we don't give an opinion in is the management's analysis of the numbers in the management discussion and analysis, because that's more of I wouldn't say opinion, but more narrative than the actual numbers themselves. The other is the other information. So you have information provided by Marion County. We don't audit that other than saying, yes, this is what Marion County said the number is. So we make sure that it's consistent with the financial statement numbers and with other information available to us, but we don't give an opinion whether that number is materially correct because we didn't provide any other procedures over those numbers.
I was especially interested in the matter of no opinion as to compliance with, I assume, regulation.
Well, there is an opinion over compliance. I was trying to,
Well,
what's the,
I guess I'll just have to rest my case here.
okay,
I
No,
came down and got a copy of this and I spent about 3 hours with it this morning and afternoon and I left it on my desk. And so
yeah, because we most.
Mine was all marked up, you know.
Yeah, because we
So,
most.
I think I understand things better than I did 4 hours ago, but. I still.
like an afternoon well spent.
Retirement sounds good.
Thank you, Merle. If
Yeah.
you continue.
Welcome.
To go on to the single audit results, there's 2 reports that we issue on that. One is the report on internal controls over financial reporting and non-compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. This is where we have to report to you any internal control findings that we were made aware of as through the course of the audit. We noted 2 significant deficiencies, one related to leave balances. One thing about a new standard, it makes you look at things a new way. Something that was never really recorded before in the financial statements, now getting on there, testing was done, and there's just some questions raised, and Kim did some investigation, and I think we're on the path to getting that resolved. And then the payroll one is related to the single audit finding noted below that some indirect cost for Title I, or not indirect, some allowable cost questions came up about a stipend for a teacher that did not provide services to Title I. So we went through, we found one in our sample. There was 2 months, I think, that were reported as Title I expenditures, and they totaled $750. More detail about those findings is in the schedule of findings and question costs towards the back of the report in the compliance section. Some other required communications, and most of these are in the letter that was also provided to you. We implemented, like we said, GASB 101, compensated absences. There was also another implementation of GASB 102, and it was about risk disclosures. These are things that would have a significant impact on the district's operations or financial condition. One of the examples that they use is if all the teachers went on strike, and that's actually in the standard, that would make it hard for the school district to operate as a school district. Others would be a significant loss of funding. So if you were 90% reliant on one funding source and that went away, that would be a significant impact to the district. So those are the types of things. Talking through with Kim, and there was nothing that rose to that level that we were made aware of that would require disclosure. And then also what's in the letter to you is some representations, and that's also a representation that Dan and Kim signed to me, that there was nothing that rose to that attention in there. Significant accounting estimates, we like to make sure that you guys are aware that these are estimates. That, and whenever you have an estimate, it can allow for management bias to influence those. So that's where it's always good to make sure that, does that make sense? And if you have any questions about those estimates, that you're raising those and making sure that they don't lean one way or another too much. We didn't have any audit adjustments identified, but there was one uncorrected misstatement, and this has to do with LGIP is supposed to be recorded at fair value. So this is the local government investment pool. It operates a lot like your money market account. If you go into what you have $1 in, you get $1 out type of thing. But because of the accounting standards, it's supposed to be at fair value. And the fair value for one of the funds with little activity, the capital projects fund, with the amount of cash in there, just raised above some of our thresholds. And it was just a really small fund to begin with. So we just noted that as that was an uncorrected misstatement. Management determined that it was immaterial. We agreed that it's not material to the financial statements. And so, but we have to note that to the board. We're not aware of any consultations with other accountants. GASB has continued to have fun. There's 3 new accounting standards on debt, 2 are for next year. The financial reporting model, this doesn't necessarily change the numbers in the financial statements, but it will change the presentation. For you guys, right now you have your budget to actual as statements. That option that you guys elected to do will go away. So they will now become part of the required supplementary information. They will no longer be in your actually called financial statements. So now they'll be schedules of budget to actuals, and they'll move place within the financial report. The other thing that will impact you guys a little bit is just a renewed emphasis on analysis as part of the management discussion analysis, and they put some more rules around that. There's some other requirements that are there, but they'll have minimal to no impact to the district because you guys don't have proprietary funds, which would be like your water fund or your internal service fund, which obviously the district does not have. Then some disclosures around capital assets. These relate to your lease and subscription disclosures. You just have to call those out separately instead of combining them in other places. And then subsequent events is a concept that's been pulled in by reference from the commercial world. And it just puts some government definitions to it and put out there for the government financial statement, some consistency about what the definition is and what's the required there. We always like to emphasize a shared responsibility for independence. We have to be able to provide you an independent opinion. We need to make sure that we're not making decisions as management, we're not operating as management, and we're not doing engagement for the district that might impair that. And then the management representation that I referenced in the past is also attached to that letter, and that's a laundry list of a few pages of things that we asked Kim and Dan to sign to make sure that what they told us is all there.
Well, anyone want to get us started?
Well, just have issues because we there seems to be some stuff that we as a district have found that I felt like you as an auditor or your firm probably should have found or given us accurate numbers, or at least given us some sort of heads up that maybe they, you know. Maybe they were inaccuracies. I haven't, mistakes were made, I don't, you know, I'm not complaining about that. However, as a board member. If the inaccuracies are after an audited version comes to us. Of our numbers, I'm not sure where we go to trust any numbers. I'm not sure where we place our trust in order to be able to make informed decisions. Does that make sense?
So I get the concern. And I think what the financial statement opinion is reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. There are things, had we known, yes, we would have done something different. But we aren't testing every single transaction. We use sampling. We test controls. We rely on statements by management. So an audit is never going to be foolproof. We always want to do.
I understand that
Yeah,
it's not gonna be foolproof, but the level of. At this point, employees, it seems to be affecting is more than. It's more than a.
Yeah,
It's
no.
more than a blip, it's more than, you know what I
No.
mean, and so that's my concern as a board member.
Yeah.
Cause sitting in the chair position for, you know, prior to Crystal. I was delivered those, you know, those reports and was material to, you know, to making sure that when they were received, I felt like they were accurate, so.
And I guess the question is at what level? So we're talking about we do some analysis and risk assessment based on a study of the district's controls and how it goes through. We also look at the overall balances within the financial statements. So something that may be material to the individual, and I'm not trying to discount that at all, may not be material to a $2 million balance or a $9 million balance to the district in total. And I get there's that disconnect at times. And so while acknowledging the concern, there's the procedures that we do.
And while I get you the individual transactional amounts may not be significant. But the significance to employees and the widespread nature of it. It does become an issue. And it just causes me to second guess. You know, the accuracy of numbers that are being presented. I mean, we pay you in order to provide a service so that we, you know, we are in compliance. That our numbers are accurate, that, you know, everybody within the organization is being treated, you know, fairly and judiciously from a financial standpoint, so.
Yeah, and I get that. And we do strongly adhere to the auditing standards through sampling and through the risk assessments and all like that. We've been in this spot before. Sometimes it's the random question, it's the random sample. New information comes up on a regular basis. And there's always that opportunity that something gets missed. And are we happy about it? No. Information comes through, there's a lot of transactions go through the district, and I get that individual people, it impacts differently than the district as a whole or for that.
You good?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not okay. but-
Yeah. Okay, Merle?
Well, I would just comment too, we do not know the dollar amounts. And they may be small and not that significant, but we do know the number of people affected, and it's quite large. And it goes back beyond this audit, I think, so we're speaking to that, I think also, aren't we? Last year's audit and maybe the one before that, we don't know here. So I share some concern. I also understand that we are so varied with bureaucratic requirements that it's almost impossible to comply with all of them. So I don't know what to say further. The material misstatement or significant deficiency. And you make the distinction between the two, one is more serious than the other. And so maybe they're not that large and can be corrected. I hope so. So maybe we need your help in how to do that and make things right.
Robert, anything?
No, anything good to say?
Okay, Kelsey? Blake? Jenny?
I'm just wondering about. Your audit is based off of like statements provided from Kim and management, right?
It's one piece of the audit.
Yeah, but what about, do you deal with like just actual data?
Yeah.
Like, rather than just statements?
Yeah, so we do a number of different procedures through the course of the audit. We take samples, we ask for, please provide us invoices or other kinds of supporting documentation. For that, we do confirmations. So we ask third parties, we ask banks, your lenders, please tell us, this is what the district says, please tell us if these numbers are correct. We pull down reports from ODE, from PERS, from all like that, and compare that to the district's records. We do analytical procedures, so where it may not be an individual test detail, but we go, okay, like payroll taxes, we'll do that because it's an easier concept to go through. And you paid roughly 8% of your payroll and payroll taxes last year. Okay, payroll taxes is roughly 8% of this year, and within some tolerances. Does that make sense? And so we run through, depending on the risk level and what's there. We also combine that with tests of controls of the district, where we pick, again, random sample and say, hey, please provide us support that this control is in place, that this was reviewed, that this was done by district personnel. So there's multiple layers that go on there. So it's.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Mr. Miley, I just have to go on record and say I'm extremely disappointed that this PERS issue was missed for multiple years in a row. I sat on this side of the table. I find that if a full sampling was done, that this would have been displayed at some point rather than have our business manager who's new find the error and report it because she has integrity and transparency. In the future, I expect better. Thank you for coming. Board action?
All right, we have a few things on here for your vote tonight. The first one is the instructional materials policy. where we discussed this at the December board meeting, and so this is one sentence that's now accurately displayed from what we discussed in December. And that the superintendent will develop processes to communicate with students and caregivers, both core and supplemental instructional materials that be required for any courses. And again, just want to really thank members of the English department at the middle and high school for helping develop some protocols. Those documents have been shared with you. So we're now recommending the adoption of this policy.
All right, do I hear a motion? Again, this is for adoption.
I'll make a motion that we approve the policy IIA, instructional materials.
Would you amend that to say we adopt?
We adopt. Yes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Move to a vote. All those in favor? Oh, Merle?
I'm kind of slow, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to vote for this, but I still have some reservation, and I may take the opportunity to say, let's bring this back. One thing that bothers me about it is that it takes the language from the Senate bill, first House bill, I think, and then the next session, the Senate bill, and puts it into policy pretty much the way it's written in the bill, and it prohibits things. You cannot refuse material with this in it. But it doesn't reach the other side, the positive side that says you can, it says you cannot refuse. But I'd like to see us address what we can use as screening criteria. Age appropriate, for example, again, my current notes are left at home, like here it's been December 8th. I feel a little ill prepared and chagrined, right?
Thank you for bringing that.
I'll just say that much at this point.
Thank you, Merle. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we now have the OSBA runoff election. I would entertain a motion.
I'm prepared to make the motion that we cast our vote for OSBA board member for Region 11 for Satya Chandagiri. If I can get that right.
Do I hear a second?
Well, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You good, Diane? And then approve the audit report for the fiscal year.
So we're making a recommendation that you approve the audit report for the 24-25 fiscal year that ended on June 30th, 2025. Anything to add to that, Kim?
No, I appreciate the explanation, walking through some of our big changes and in our balances, and welcome any questions, from the board as well, but request your approval to close out our year.
Yes.
I have one question that you can probably answer, but the management discussion and analysis portion, does that information come from us, from the district?
Correct. After our financial statements are complete, then that information is very similar district to district, short of the closing segment, I would say. It's pretty structured in how it's presented and how it provides an overview of the subsequent pages, and then the ending analysis, which is where I believe the expansion is coming in the new GASBs. Into some more insight and analysis, into that. But yes, that is a district, it's all of our information, but that is a district drafted document is the best way to state that.
Okay, thank you for that. It took me several hours in contemplation to recognize that, but I should begin to come through eventually. Wheels still turn, they just turn a little slowly.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the audit and approve the audit as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Great.
Well, we are going to provide the board and the public, the same presentation that we gave to all district staff last Monday. So this is the identical report. Before I turn it over to Kim to give the first half of the report, I'd be remiss if I didn't extend my appreciation to both UNME and OSEA for their cooperation through these issues and discussions. They've just been excellent partners, both in just kind of how do we want to problem solve, how do we want to present, and and know that moving forward as we work to solve some of the issues ahead of us, that they will continue to partner with us. So I just really want to publicly thank them for their partnership on this. And midway through the report, when it transitions back over to me, I'll also make some comments about Kim's work in putting this together. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kim for the first half of this presentation.
Thank you very much. Just for the board's sake and for the public's sake, we are going to walk through this as if the similar presentation as we did to our staff to ensure we are able to communicate that same message. So please forgive if we're referencing the yous and that sort of thing, but that wanted you to see what our staff heard. So we started off, before we jump into the details of the PERS records review, felt it was absolutely critical to try to summarize the PERS benefits and create a greater understanding of this generous benefit and why those accurate records are so critical. It's important to be clear that this information is a very, very high level summary, and each member within PERS has individual factors that will impact how their benefit calculations are calculated. Oregon's pension system has consistently been ranked one of the most complex systems in the country. And my hope is in just a few minutes, I can break down some of those barriers and explain some of the benefit that we each receive. So once we become a PERS member, we are each assigned a membership type, and we would be either a tier 1, a tier 2, or what is termed OPSERP, which stands for Oregon Public Service Retirement Program. And within these membership types, we each have 2 separate PERS benefits. One of those benefits is a pension, and a pension is a retirement program, uses a formula to calculate guaranteed payments for life. PERS uses those membership types, again, either tier 1, tier 2, or OPSERP, calculates total years of creditable service, which sounds straightforward, but is not. And then a final average salary, which of course, again, is also, should have an asterisk behind it. And that creates a formula for calculating an annual pension benefit. And once those pension payments begin, they are going to continue through the end of your life and even potentially for a surviving family member, depending upon your specific selection at the time of retirement. Those pension costs are fully paid by the employer, and it is a very significant part of the retirement benefit. But yet there's another large piece to the PERS benefit, and that is known as the IAP, and it stands for Individual Account Program. By law, every PERS eligible employee in the entire state must contribute 6% of their gross pay into an IAP. Fortunately, here at North Marion, as is the case in a number of districts in the state, that 6% is paid by the district. That money goes into an account in your name at PERS, and it's very similar to what many of us in the private sector know as a 401k. Excuse me, that account will be impacted by market performance, and it may grow faster or slower or possibly be negatively impacted based on the market. But when we're ready to retire, we can work with PERS, and their retirement counselors will learn about our options that typically includes either a lump sum or regularly scheduled distributions. So the PERS membership is a great benefit and a great solid foundation as part of an overall retirement plan. On the next slide, I wanted to explain the goal of explaining the PERS benefit and how the information is used is to create that direct link between your earnings and what gets reported to PERS. Every month, every public entity combines all their payroll data for the month, submits it to PERS. And what we've discovered that while the information on the left, the payroll was processed correctly, the information recorded in the PERS system is where we have found our concerns. The impact of this can be to retirement benefit calculations for our employees. It can impact the amount the district is invoiced for pension contributions, and it can impact the calculation of that 6% required contribution into the employee accounts. We contacted the business department of Willamette ESD upon finding this and asked them to review our specific PERS data as well. They confirmed that they did find the same variances in our data, and we are certainly grateful for their help, even though it may not have been the answer we were hoping for. So one of the questions we keep getting, it comes up is, how is this discovered? And we want to share how this was discovered to emphasize the importance of communication from our staff and reaching out for help when you have questions. So shortly after I joined the North Marion team, an employee came to me with a letter from PERS. I reviewed the letter, looked at the employee's earnings in the PERS system, and it was clear that the information in the PERS system for that employee was not complete. It was unclear how that happened at that point, but we knew we needed to correct it. However, a short time later, another employee noticed on their online PERS account that their earnings for a specific month were not listed at all. And so after confirming this second issue, I ran a quick comparison between our payroll system and the PERS system, and it confirmed our fears. And at that point, we knew a detailed and complete review was absolutely critical. In late November, I completed the detailed review of each individual payroll record from January through October 2025. And again, that has validated the discrepancies between those two systems. So what did our records review find? So each month PERS receives hundreds of records from us. However, for January through October, we identified 189 individual records in which the amount of earnings reported to PERS was less than it should have been. We had 12 records where PERS did not have any record of earnings for the employee, yet the employee did receive pay that month. 10 instances where PERS had earning records for an employee, but the employee did not receive any pay that month. And then we had 28 individual records in which the amount of earnings reported to PERS was more than it should have been. These records impact 146 different staff members. And some of those staff members, of course, have multiple records that are being corrected. So our corrections are underway. Some of these corrections are significantly complex and requiring support from PERS staff. We're continuing to work on each and every record to ensure every employee's accounts are correct. So what should our staff expect? The staff with a reporting error in 2025 have now received an email from me as of Friday outlining every month in which a discrepancy was found, the amount of the discrepancy, and which way it went. We are continuing our records review on prior year data. We wanted our employees to know their records in the PERS system are changing daily. So this is causing some confusion, and we really are, our goal is to, curb that confusion as much as possible. But while we are currently making these corrections, it can be seen live. So there's definitely some transparency there, but prior pension estimates may look different. If somebody has previously received an estimate on their pension, it may look different. And then, of course, their IAP balance, that 401k side savings account piece, that could look different too. So I kind of was earlier, when Dan was talking about controls. This slide originally said controls, and I got some great feedback from someone who's like, what's a control? And so when he kept referencing them, it was kind of made me giggle, but systems that we implement for accuracy. So we have a expanded reconciliation tool that I've used for years and was fortunate to get to bring over here that is going to ensure 100% accuracy for all of reporting, PERS, taxes, all of those critical pieces. We also are, the PERS reports are generated out of our payroll system. Take payroll, send it to PERS, PERS posts it, but expanding this to say, you know what, when it's done, when it's posted in PERS, let's pull it back out and make sure it does match what we sent. So, you know, we've all seen computer gremlins, of course, right? Or human, intervention can cause things. So this is going to give, they call it three-way communication, right? In a lot of pieces. So this is kind of our three-way communication on that. And then the additional piece is enhancing how we use our payroll system to track the status of our PERS members. Gets a little complex, but there are waiting periods, there are non-qualified positions, there are retirees, there are all kinds of movements within the PERS system. Tracking that, knowing where every employee is in their different membership types or retirement phases, or finish their waiting periods, or in a non-qualified position, but then they qualify due to concurrent employment. The complexities are there. But through these changes I've made, we are making in the system, we're going to be able to have a way to track those carefully. So what's next? The prior year's records review and corrections, the PERS invoice adjustments will be coming our way. And then a commitment to ongoing testing of those systems, those validation tools. Just as our auditor tests us to make sure what we say we're doing, we're gonna be testing ourselves and making sure that those work. So employees, we wanted to let them know what they could do, starting off by saying, absolutely clear, PERS reporting is the district's responsibility. We are, committed to accuracy of our PERS reporting moving forward. We are committed to our employee compensation and benefits being accurate. However, despite having those systems in place, we're all better when we work together. So we ask people to review your pay stub. We ask people to review your PERS account regularly. That IAP account that we explained was similar to a 401k, is a separate login from your PERS pension login, should be reviewed. And we encourage every employee to reach out with questions. Payroll and benefits are extremely complex. Through the analysis, even with our auditors, it's very, very complex to track all that. And even more so in a public entity. So wanted our employees to hear, we are here to serve you. We are here to take the worry, the stress out of the pay and the benefits so that our true boots on the ground people are out there and they can focus on number one, which is our students out there. So, yeah.
All right. Well, before we transition to the next half of this presentation, just really want to thank Kim for how many hours she has put in to do this work. Also, having all of those notices, 140 some notices go out on Friday afternoon, was an incredible timeline to give herself, deadline to give herself. And, also what a lot of people don't realize is just the amount of effort that she puts in to make sure that message is as clear as possible and doesn't create additional confusion was just probably, I don't know if labor of love is the right terminology or not. But just really, I guess I want to just highlight how much she cares about employees and that they get the service that they deserve, because like she said, they work with our kids. And so being able to provide them with the most accurate information in the most digestible way possible, we see how much, how dedicated she is to that. So I just really want to thank you for all the work that went into this project thus far. So one of the things that we also presented to staff is, and you heard it referenced in the audit report, was some things that we discovered related to the issues regarding leaves. And so we're going to talk about excess leaves, unpaid leaves, and what we call short accruals. Just so you know what an accrual is when at the start of every school year, employees are given a certain amount of leave. So let's say 80 hours of sick leave. We call that their annual accrual. It's what they are given in terms of the amount of hours for whatever leave type that they might have. So it's referred to on their pay stubs as accruals. So that's what we referenced it here. And so within this, the first thing we want to maybe I should just use this and use your notes if I need it. So one of the things I talked about with staff was the fact that leaves are also complex because they overlap with one another. And so what I explained to staff is their CBA paid leave, which would be like a personal or sick leave. You know, if you wake up sick one day, you got a doctor's appointment, you enter in that absence, that sick leave absence, and that's about all that happens there. And those types of absences don't interact with the other ones. And that's the most common one people use. But let's say that you have an ongoing condition or you have a family member that is going to need additional care, or what we, kind of in a general term, have a qualifying event for that would qualify for someone to be under FEMLA or OFLA. In which case they're using their contractual leave to protect their pay, which you can see there is noted on there. But then they have leave protections under the federal or state leave laws that protect their position and benefits. And so there's overlap that can occur there. There can also be an overlap where maybe they're out of contractual leave, and so which is protecting their pay, but their job and benefits are still protected because even though there may be an unpaid status, they're still protected by a state or federal program. So that there's these overlaps that happen. And also we have the new paid leave Oregon, which is where the funding may be coming from the state, and it's also under the umbrella of FEMLA or OFLA. So this makes leaves a complicated system because of the way these things these programs interact with each other. So within the review, what we found were some negative leave balances did not result in a pay reduction. So if someone exceeded their sick leave, they may not have had their pay reduced. Some negative leave balances were covered using the next year's accrual. So let's say somebody, and I'm just making up numbers here, but if somebody went 50 hours negative in sick leave and got 80 hours the next year, they may have then, what ended up happening, may have started the year with with 30 hours left. So basically the new year's accrual covered the negative balance. In some cases, negative leave balances were purged at the start of a year. So let's say that somebody had a negative 80 hours or negative 100 hours, they got 80, but they might have just been zeroed out just manually. And in some cases, some employees retain benefits after eligibility should have ended. And we also just found some errors where someone didn't receive their full accrual. So that latter one we were working to rectify as soon as possible. The other issues we're still working through in terms of making sure we're adequately addressing these, which we're getting to in the next slide, which talks about our leave systems that we're implementing. So one thing we did already at the beginning of the year is no longer can an employee indicate that they are going on unpaid leave. That has to be approved to the superintendent's office. So that was something that we put in place over the summer to try to manage unpaid leaves differently. And then we're also improving systems to make sure that pay and benefits are properly processed during periods of extended leaves and absences. So trying to put better controls into our leave system, which some of these are going to take some policy changes in terms of how we implement both our sick time policy and how we manage the FEMLA and OFLA. So these things are more synced up to manage in a different way. And that's where we'll need to be partnering with our both associations to make sure how we implement things moving forward are both within the contractual provisions and effectively communicated with staff. All right, so and one of the things, I've already mentioned about revising some of the procedures to ensure leave is applied appropriately. But I think it's also important for the district to be frequently reminding people and providing trainings on leave options. When somebody's going through a medical event, kind of the last thing that they want to be thinking about is how do I make sure my work's taken care of? And so the more that we can proactively communicate with people and let them know the options that exist for them and partner with them, we won't have these issues if we're actively communicating and coming alongside employees like that. So I think that that's an area where we can do better. And we'll also be communicating with those with leave discrepancies. And our goal is to notify them by the end of this month. So if they've had not received their full accrual, we'll make sure that's getting taken care of. But on the other side of it, if they were one of them whose negative balance was purged or other things, we don't want past experiences to be used to make future plans, if that makes sense. So if someone thought, well, this worked out for me last time, we don't want them to be making those same decisions based on past experiences. So not necessarily trying to, make people feel bad or anything like that, but just want to make sure that they understand what their options are moving forward.
Mhm.
And so what we mentioned to staff is that they're having any extended absences for any particular reason, please reach out to us so that we can work with them. One of the things that's a little unique to North Marion is that American Fidelity, which is a third party that many districts partner with, they also manage our FEMLA and OFLA system. It's very common for American Fidelity to manage paid leave Oregon. Many districts do that. Some districts also have American Fidelity manage FEMLA or OFLA. But from my HR experience, that's new to me. And so that's something that I'm figuring out of how does that partnership work when they go to a third party to get those leaves approved. So this is the last thing that I shared with staff is, what transparency means to me or us as a district team. And it's really going beyond being honest. It's also sharing information to build trust and avoid misunderstandings. And one of the things that I shared with staff is during that staff meeting that we had, we took some questions and answered them publicly, but only the questions that we really were confident that we could answer. Because the worst thing you can do for transparency is give an answer you're semi-sure about and then have to change it because they only heard what you said the first time. And so it's really important to make sure when we get questions that we give definitive answers that we're confident about. And so also linked on the memo is a PDF of the frequently asked questions that we've received so far and the answers that we've given. And so this particular document comes from our greenhouse, which is did you pull this off the memo? Okay, so we made this part I think public for everybody. Because we vetted these questions, made sure there was no personal information in here. But these are the type, I just wanted the board to be aware of the types of questions that we're getting and the answers that we're giving. And these are all accessible to employees as well. So so I just wanted to share that we are working to get answers to these questions as soon as they come in. And with that, we're done.
Okay, I will just start, which I don't typically do anymore, but I want to just thank Kim and you for really going above and beyond to communicate with everybody involved. With being clear and concise with the board, keeping us in the loop, your work with the auditors, and also especially our employees. Like, I can imagine that this time would be very challenging, and the fact that you're very approachable, that you're putting up an FAQ, that you're keeping all of us on the same communication path. It really is valuable, and I feel as a board member that it's more of a partnership between everyone rather than one person has some information, the other person has another. So I just thank you. And thank you, Kim, for the obnoxious amount of hours you have put in to bring forth right, trustful information. And I really, really appreciate it. I just can't say enough how blessed we are to have you. Anybody else want to comment?
I would echo that. Thank God for Kim. I drive by here 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night sometimes. I drive by on the weekend. Her car is here. I don't know what we'd do without you. So really thank you for your dedication. We appreciate you.
Hearing none.
I just say I'm looking forward to the future, glad the windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror, and it's nice to have a line drawn in the sand where we can look forward to new opportunities.
Truth. All right, before I adjourn, I'm gonna read this executive session into the record.
Could I just?
Sorry.
All I
Yep,
want to
jumped
say for board members is just kind of being mindful of the upcoming items listed below at the bottom of the agenda that talk a little bit about, we'll have the primary and intermediate school. We're gonna give a strategic plan update. We also have a couple principal searches coming up. So just be mindful of the things that are on the horizon in the upcoming meetings. So.
Oh, and I will speak to the fact that Jenny and I requested that budget 101 be moved from the January work session to February to accommodate the extensive amount of work that Kim is doing. All right, I'll read it in. You need it read in, right, Diane? Yeah. Okay, please. The board will now meet in executive session according to ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated to carry on labor negotiations, collective bargaining for UNME according to ORS 192.6602D. We good, or do you need the rest of it? You're good. Okay. So we will adjourn. We'll have a 3-minute break. Yep.